Alright, so welcome back to game number 2, guys, here in this best of 3 between two colossal players on the European ladder. This is, of course, not a ladder match. This is for the ESL Euro Series. This is a team league between two teams known as mYinsanity and Team Acer. This is going to be a best of 5 between the two teams. It's currently 1-1 as the overall team score dictates. Each point is, of course, won by winning a best of 3, and this is game number 2 of this particular best of 3. Spawning in the top right corner of the map, he's red, he's Zerg, and he's down 1 in this series. Can he bring it back? It's Acer's Bly. And his opponent, way over yonder, spawning in the lower left far corner of Frost. It is the blue Protoss leading the series 1-0. Your former DreamHack champion of 2013. Give it up for Stardust. So here's the thing about Bly, guys, right? I talked a lot of these players up in game number 1. You're not going to get the hype train. You can go back and listen to the VOD if you missed it. But for game number 2, one thing I'm a little bit curious about is, like, the thing that always seems to catch players off guard the most and really play well into his favor is Bly, you know, with a lot of aggression early on, tends to bully people down and prevent them from getting ahead towards the late game, much less the mid game, right? So he didn't really do any of that last game. It was, I kind of commented as a bit of a joke, but that was like seriously the most passive play I've ever seen out of Bly, ever, and I've cast a lot of his games. I'm kind of got my fingers crossed he does something a little bit crazier here. Nothing too crazy that's going to lose him the game, of course, but on a map like Frost, the last thing you want to do is go toe-to-toe with a Protoss player in the late game. Stardust, however, been curious on the positioning of this gateway. This is nothing too crazy, but oftentimes you do see that SimCity here at the top of the ramp or the front of the base. I mean, hiding it, quote unquote, behind the mineral lines is not a big deal. It's just a bit curious to see, as it's not common. I think Stardust expecting Bly to perhaps come a little bit earlier. Doesn't want to risk having these buildings exposed on the front, is my only reasoning of logic. It could just be because he felt like doing it. There's sometimes, like, when you ask players about some things they do, whether they build a supply depot at the front of the ramp or whether they take a gas cancel or drone trick, etc., a lot of the times, like, yeah, I just felt like doing it. I felt like being cool. There's not a lot of strategy, and I think a lot of the time, combination of casters as well as viewers really overthink some of the early game stuff, and I don't think there's anything too crazy out of Stardust, in all honesty. Now, if he was hiding like a Twilight Council back here or something, that's different. But Bly has made those earlier things, the earlier lings, well, the things that are lings, this Dr. Seuss, that I so desperately yearned for. This is the type of aggression that I really like to see. Now, coming across the map like this, he could try and cancel the Nexus. I don't know that that would necessarily be what he wants to do, though, because this sort of opening is like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, right? Like, you want to get these into the main, you want to pick off some probes, and of course, Bly hasn't seen the fact that there's no full wall off. But he's gonna get lucky. Of course, he did drone scout the other bases, so it's not like map hacks, guys. He deduced where his opponent spawned. One Zella coming out will not be able to deal with these links unless microed absolutely perfectly, but oh, even on the ramp, it's not going to be too easy to pull off. Even almost gets the probe. Here comes the Mothership Core, and this is where Bly is going to be kind of limited on what he can do. Realizing that he has to kind of go for kills. Not able to get a lot of free damage in here, as the Mothership Core will eventually clean everything up. Does get a Zella, though, gets the probe, and honestly, this small cost this early is not too bad. Even like that he's chased one ling off, go be able to kill that probe there too. Kills the probe in the main too, the mineral line, so still really getting his money worth from these lings. It's really not the most cost efficient thing in the world, but 6 lings for 1 zealot and 2 probes so far, not too shabby. Back at home, he did take an expansion too. It's not like this was some sort of weird one base early pool all in. Might go for a third, but realistically, if he's going to flood lings and go for some sort of Zergling all-in, we're not going to see that third base come out anytime soon. Metabolic boost has started, and he's continued to mine gas, worth noting. As oftentimes, if you do go for straight-up ling all-ins, you do pull off the gas. There's no reason, there's no follow-up of Banelings. It's not like a bust like against a Terran player, so no real necessity for the extra gas. But still producing a lot of lings and cutting his workers right now. May still actually go for that ling all-in. Oh, if he was keeping the extra gas for upgrades, that perhaps makes a little more sense. But coming across the base with this sort of 2-base build, hoping to catch Stardust off guard. There's going to be an overcharge for this next attack too, so it's kind of, I don't know, guys. It's going to be a little bit tentative on how much damage this can really do. Does catch the pylon over here on this side of the map though. That's going to be a nice little scout there for Bly, but unfortunately he's not got a lot that he can't really do anything about it right now, right? Stuck on 26 workers on these 2 bases will be a little bit better suited to fight against this. Metabolic boost is not quite done yet, so kiting this army around, ducking in, running away, not quite going to be an opportunity just yet, but he's working on it. It's coming up in a moment's time. +1 melee attacks is coming up here too. Gets the probe, tries to get the probe. Well, if we could have got that probe and shuts down further pylons, that would be fantastic, but a decent surround nonetheless. Mothership Core throws down a time warp, so no option of a recall, no retreating out of this. Bly, of course, with that metabolic boost, will try and get this probe down. Will finally kill the probe, but the pylon is going to get established. There's no way to really stop that from happening, but 16 lings flooding across, or flooding out here in a moment's time. Hopefully that'll be enough for Bly to hold on to this. Queen has been brought to the front line. It is, of course, the only anti-air. And he's looking a lot better to fight against this early gateway aggression from Stardust than he was in the last game. Will it even be enough, though, is going to be the big question. He's already lost a lot of lings in the Zealots. Oh, another time warp gets slapped down, but the Queen should be able to run away from this. If he can pick off that Mothership Core, then it's going to be a lot easier for him to flood just lings to eventually win this game, right? But unfortunately, chewing through the Zealots is a lot easier said than done. Bly's trying to bulk up his lings, wait till he's got more. That +1, if it can come into effect, this game would be fantastic, but that's a really big if. Queen towards the main was slaughtered by that one Stalker, and looks like that Mothership Core is going to be left alone for the time being. I think 1-on-1 a Mothership Core can actually take on a Queen that's this low. Zealot will certainly make that one-sided fight, but Bly now with no real anti-air loses his last Queen. Tries to go for the pylon, but the position that Stardust has got this in is actually fantastic. It's going to be almost impossible to get us around on this, much less, especially with the Zealots constantly flooding in. Stalker finds a really pristine spot next to the spawning pool in the minerals, but I gotta say, losing the natural base might be a little too much. Bly is in for some trouble. And even though he opened with a lot of ling aggression himself, the gateways from Stardust were just a little too good. I mean, what could you have done is the big question in this scenario, and like having a spine crawler down, having a small like extra layer of defense, something beneficial on top of this, maybe more queens. I don't know, but Bly either way was not able to prepare for this attack. Still so many Zealots here on the front lines, even without +1 attack. Zealots are so hard to deal with just pure lings. The choke on the ramp really playing against Bly too. Trying to pick off the pylons. I do like these moves coming out of him, but again, it's kind of like consolation prizes at this point. Lings are trying to run past, but there's just not enough. There's way too many Zealots, and of course there's no Queen to deal with that Mothership Core. Good game is going to be slapped down, and Stardust will take the series, now giving mYinsanity the lead 2-1 in the overall team score in this best of 5.